Okay, welcome to this video. As the title suggests, it's going to be an interview with one of my clients, Onkur. This is a great interview. It's extremely insightful. I hope for anyone who's looking to get started with a fitness goal, losing fat, building muscle, doing both, getting stronger with calisthenics exercises, whatever it may be, this should inform you quite a lot about the what you need to do and the why. Take notes on it, get all the benefits you can. And if you're looking for any sort of support, you have any fitness goals you want to achieve, feel free to message me on Instagram.
Started around 184.5, and that was on August 9th. And then 3 months later, I'm at 165.1 as my lowest. So almost 20 pounds lost.
The biggest thing that we do in the gym is progress 3 times a week on bodyweight movements. You started in a really cool position where you're already on bodyweight. Where do you start and where are you now?
So for chin-ups, I started at 10 pounds for 6 reps. Now I'm at 60 pounds for 4 reps. With ring dips, it was body weight for 6 reps, and then got to 30 pounds weighted for 5. And then pull-ups was body weight for 6 to 8. Now I can do 25 pounds for 6. So really seen a lot of progression in the last few months.
Yeah. What do you feel is the main benefit for you? Because I think everyone identifies different benefits with progressing bodyweight exercises. Is it muscle mass for you? Is it enjoyment of exercises? What really shifted in that progression for you?
I think it was seeing the truth of the statement you had made that as you lose fat, your capability in the exercises will increase. That's kind of a bold claim, but to see it happening for me, that as I was getting leaner, I was getting stronger and able to develop in those movements, especially because, for a couple of years leading up to doing this program, I would be doing bodyweight movements and incorporating them with compound exercises like squats and deadlifts that were barbell movements, but not really progressing on the pull-ups or bodyweight parts. I'd always be stuck at 5 or 6 pull-ups in a set. So to actually make that a focal point and progress on that was really gratifying.
That's interesting. So you have history with barbell movements. I would say 30% of people come in with a good training history with barbell movements. Had you had been doing barbell movements as a priority, obviously it's a guess, but you've tried to lose fat before, I'm imagining. Would you think you would progress as much?
I don't think so, because I was previously training primarily for strength. And the way I measured strength was the number on the bar, and bigger number better. So I think changing that mindset to strength for the body weight that I'm at, actually training to lose fat, training bodyweight movements as a first-class citizen, training closer to failure as opposed to submaximal lifting, which is what I'd focused on for the last 4-ish years. All of these things have been a big change. And it's been really cool to see that both training modalities work for different goals, but for the goal that I'm pursuing now, this training modality works really well.
Yeah, for me, I could argue all day. I really believe that progressing body weight is the best thing to do, because I just cannot imagine, and I'm waiting for someone to prove it otherwise, that you can do 30 kg on chin-ups and be fat. I just don't think it's possible. And
Totally.
I'm waiting for someone who's fat to go and imagine if this went like viral on somewhere and you get like a bunch of fat people doing chin-ups, and I'd be like, fine then. But I just don't think it's happening. Yeah, especially with muscle mass, it's just about progression with correct training methods. So if you do make that progression, you are going to build muscle. What was the biggest issue that you had beforehand, whether it be related to like sleep, consistency, progress, and how has that changed, if at all?
Totally. So when I think back, I have 3 issues that I think about. One is sleep. I would often sleep very late, do a lot of revenge bedtime procrastination, and wake up early or wake up at a normal time. Fixing that, and either sleeping early and waking up early, or sleeping late and waking up late, has been great for me, really prioritizing that 8 hours. And on days where inevitably life happens and I don't get that 8 hours, finding ways to recover with naps in the middle of the day or planning my day around that has been a huge win. Second is nutrition. I always thought I was progressively eating healthier over time. And maybe I was, maybe that is or isn't true. But the quantity of food was something that I started to lose track of. And I would have intuitive measurements of what's healthy, and I was wildly incorrect, just objectively, as I would gain more and more weight. Yeah. So fixing the nutrition and really tracking that was a big change for me. And then another issue was, again, for the goal, I was focused a lot on compound heavy barbell movements, which presumably are good, but it incurred a lot of fatigue. And I would try to train frequently, which was bad. So those are some of the issues I faced before coming into this training program.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we can take from that is that healthy doesn't mean better. I mean, you can eat healthy foods in excess. They can be low nutrient. Like the biggest examples I always say, like things like bananas and avocados. It's not that they're low nutrient. It's just that they don't have essential nutrients in abundance compared to foods which you would be switching them for. And it's the same with sleep. Like you can be getting like 9 or 10 hours of sleep, and most of the time the people who do that are recovering from something that's metabolically bad, and they are not better off. Whereas if you install these habits so that you can improve, then you are able to get more from less. Yeah, it's awesome to see that. It's just those little tweaks. Like with the training as well, we want to try to get as much stimulus for as little fatigue. And if we look at the big three, especially bench, most people do their shoulder in. Squats, you are objectively compressing your spine, and it's overly utilizing your quads compared to your glutes. Deadlift, doesn't matter how good you are at the technique, if you get strong at that, I don't know anyone who's ever got strong at that without incurring some sort of injury along the way. It's even if you do it correctly, there's just too many moving parts and you get so much fatigue. And if you've got good genetics, maybe you build a bunch of muscle with them, but it's not. If you don't have the best genetics in the world, we should be thinking, how can we train where we go into work feeling good rather than feeling exhausted, get the most amount of stimulus, and know that it doesn't matter what our genetics are, we're going to make progression. I just think that those little tweaks can be huge for that. Okay, were there any habits that you had before versus now that you feel that have been improved as a result of anything that we've applied in the coaching?
Yeah, I think they trace directly back to the issues. So I'm a lot more disciplined about sleep. That's one that and even though I don't use trackers like an Oura Ring or an Apple Watch, I'm very disciplined about getting the 8 hours of sleep or planning my day around sleep times and building recovery protocols for when I don't have that time built in for whatever reason. And then I think the nutrition was the biggest game changer for me. Like I'm someone who is fairly comfortable going to the gym frequently. I already knew that sleep was a good thing and I tried to prioritize it, but I'd never tracked my nutrition in any sense of the word. So starting with the elimination diet and doing exact tracking of everything I ate for aggressive fat loss was a huge change, a beneficial one, and I began to see the results very quickly. And now I'm able to intuitively track, as in I have basically the same categories of foods. I leave a little bit of buffer for maybe when I'm going out to eat, or I have, plans and protocols for accommodating that kind of food without drastically affecting my weight and my progress. And I'm able to maintain just fine. And that was also something that we worked together on in terms of realizing that if you're going to eat out and that's going to happen, treat that day as a maintenance day. Don't necessarily try to go for fat loss. If you do, that's a win, that's fine. Yeah. But building that kind of healthy mindset as well of being able to enjoy life and in moderation with also, pursuing the goal itself.
That actually moves me on a little bit. At the very beginning, you had a few weeks where you went to London and then you went to South Africa. It's a lot of traveling. How did you find the process worked for that? Because I have my opinions on how you did it, and I thought it was really good. The amount of advice that was taken was huge. Your own inputs that you added in are things that I will be using with other clients. But how do you find, like, as a long-term lifestyle thing, that this approach worked for you?
So I think there are a few things off the top of my head. One is where there are opportunities to eat good nutrient-rich food, take them. For me, and also because of the kind of person I am, breakfast is usually that meal. So I will find something that has eggs, yogurt, berries, things that are high protein, and useful nutrients to set yourself up for a win for the day. The second is to allow indulgences, but limit the portions. So whenever I was traveling, I would allow myself to have anything under the sun, but I wouldn't necessarily eat the whole thing, or I wouldn't, have as much as I would previously. The third is one that you introduced to me, which I was skeptical of before, but especially on days that I know are going to be heavy, try to skip one meal. So for me, that meal would probably be lunch because I really enjoy breakfast, or have smaller meals throughout to kind of tide me over to when the big dinner would be, for instance. So instead of a huge lunch, maybe like a very light lunch and a snack in the afternoon of some berries or like water and electrolytes or water and greens powder to really tide me over. I didn't do that as much while traveling, but it was generally a good strategy to allow for heavier meals. And then the last is also to stay active. There are ways to stay active without hitting the gym, especially while traveling. Walking a ton was certainly one of them. When I was in London, we walked a lot, probably 15,000 steps every day. That alone was a huge increase from my normal day-to-day amount. Certainly helped. So I would say those are the few tactics that come to mind. But if there are things that you think of that I'm missing, I would love to hear it too.
I just think it's pick some rules, follow the rules, and don't pick a ridiculous amount. Like if you can pick, again, it's like you said, you're skeptical with the idea of calorie borrowing, where you just say, well, I'm going to eat a large amount this evening. But a lot of the time people think I feel hungry and therefore I must eat. That is not true. And it's not going to develop disordered eating. It's just deciding. It's just you decide outside of the emotion. Well, what should I be eating? When should I be eating? And if I have less control over things, why don't I just eat more when I have control? You start your day with a lot of people, when they say they have eggs in the morning, they're like, I have 2 eggs, and they have it with a bunch of toast. It's like useless. You have 6 eggs, you have a large serving of yogurt, like you have a load of berries. You're not going to want to eat for ages. And then your large meal comes around and you can enjoy it. So it's incentivizing that as well. But I think that, yeah, you picked a couple of those habits that we discussed. And again, it's like, just pick which ones that you think are going to be useful for you. I am more likely to skip breakfast, or at least I was in the past. I'd say I'm shifting a little bit more to the same as you now, especially when traveling, just because breakfast is a meal where you have the most amount of control over. So you might as well stuff it with every nutrient that you think you're going to struggle to get if you were to eat out. So yeah, I think that's a really good adjustment. Is in terms of like losing fat, improving strength, improving sleep, improving lifestyle factors with your nutrition and things like that. Are there any factors outside, like maybe work or just generally how you feel with your energy and hunger and things like that, where you feel it's been improved as a result of getting in better shape or getting better habits?
My wife and my family have noticed, which is great. I would say the broader world hasn't noticed that much, but that's okay. That's not what I was going for. I feel like the energy change is actually hard for me to internalize because I felt it gradually over time. But I do remember at one point telling you when my sleep was really dialed in for like a week and then I had a poor night of sleep, I was like, oh, I feel much worse. But it's not like I feel great when my sleep is on point.
Yeah.
I just go from normal to bad, not from bad to great.
Yeah.
So there is like a bit of a hedonic adaptation there. This came at a time in my life when I had to prove to myself that I could do something difficult and mostly for myself and do it. And I really feel like that happened. If anything, this was more for my internal way to improve myself. And it spilled over into other aspects of life, like how I'm approaching work, how I'm approaching like other goals in life, how I'm approaching relationships, with that kind of discipline and not no excuses, but realizing that every choice I make as it relates to sleep, exercise, and diet will have an impact on this goal. And if this goal is actually important to me, then I need to make those choices accordingly. So for instance, like I did not sacrifice my relationships, but I sacrificed maybe some aspect of propriety. So whenever I would go out or when I would go to some like hangouts for like discussions, which I do sometimes, I bring my own food. When I go to book club meetings, I bring my own food. I wouldn't do that before, but and I the old me would feel like I would have to justify it, or I would bring food to work now instead of ordering. I get free food at work. I don't take the free food. I actually just bring my own food and prepare it because I'm in pursuit of a goal for which that has a bigger purpose than just what's available to me or just what is socially normal. And I felt like I would have to justify it before, but now I just say I enjoy eating my own food, or I'm trying to be a little bit healthier, vaguely. Not I'm on a very precise, aggressive fat loss plan with my trainer. We discussed exactly what I'm going to eat.
Yeah, it's interesting because everyone's at different stage. And I always look at it like this is like the general start stage for like the worst version that you have been, and this is your best possible version. And different people come to me at different stages, and you're definitely like starting here immediately, but it's a lot of people starting here. And when we're starting now, we're talking more about when you're at a family function or something like that, and they're asking you, why are you eating that way? You say, oh, I just feel a little bit ill. I don't want to eat as much. But you have to come up with like justifications, because you know that you can't tell them I'm on a diet, because they're going to take it as you should be on a diet. And it's just going to derail your goals, because that social impact can change you. It can change your trajectory. But when you're a lot further down the line and you're a lot more locked in with it, you're like, no, I'm doing this because I want to do this, and I'm willing to justify it with anything. And I call it the buffet effect, because this is where I notice it the most. If I go to a buffet, I want to eat as much as I can to bankrupt them. That's what I'm thinking. And I'm like, I've paid this measly amount of money. I'm going to make sure that you don't make a profit. And it doesn't serve me whatsoever. I remember at the Euros, when the Euros were on, and we were watching like Scotland play or something. I was just sat there feeling so ill for 3 hours because I'd done that. And it didn't serve me. It doesn't serve anyone to do that. So, but we're just saying, well, it's just this small little. It's not even a goal. It's just, it would be nice if I got the most amount for my money. But it's like it's ruining a much bigger goal for you. So it's really cool to see
value. Like reapproaching the concept of value has been a big thing for me too. And on this note of going to buffet and wanting to eat everything, someone once told me something that really changed my perspective. Probably like you, if I get food, like I don't want it to go to waste, so I feel a need to eat it all. That's similar to the buffet effect. But a friend told me, instead of letting it go to waste, if you eat it, you're putting that waste in your body instead, and you're treating your body like a dump. And so I was like, oh, that's very prescient. Yeah. And so either saving it for later or just saying, my body needs XYZ. That's all I'm going to have, and I don't need any more.
Yeah.
That was a big mindset shift for me. Yeah. And also to your point of, like eating out and being polite or whatever. I found a way to blend that, in that you can add a small white lie that says, oh, I ate a lot before coming, or like, I want to try everything, which is true. Like just while I was on vacation, I'll have a little bit of everything, but I just won't go hard on any particular item the way I used to.
Yeah. It's the social things, again, they're also progressions. At the very beginning, it's you're tinkering with people because that they do not believe that you're going to achieve your goal. They don't. So they are not even looking at the possibility that your diet actually ends up, because most people have seen people diet and fail. So why would they believe otherwise? But all it does is make them think, oh, well, and especially if they care about you. The more they care about you, the more they think, oh, well, he has a body image issue and I don't want him to have that. So let's encourage him that the way you are is perfect already. And it's well-meaning, but it's also just not the case. But the further you get into it, the more, and people see results as well, the more they're like, oh no, he's just doing what serves him best. So you don't have to deal with that anymore. And you're much happier about saying, not justifying why you do what you do. But again, it's just, where are you on the trajectory? Let's talk about what could be done better, because I have a look at what my clients are doing, and I track absolutely everything, so that I can, at the end of this, say, here's what I think you did well, and here's where you could have improved. The reality is that the people who do best communicate the most, and they go above and beyond with the tracking. Do you track your workouts? Do you track your nutrition? Do you send videos? Do you ask me as many questions as possible? If you see a study or something someone said, do you question it and ask me what I think? Are you willing to stand up for what you think and have an argument about it until we get to the truth? Like there's a list of all these things. And from my perspective, there's not much that I can think that you could do better. The only thing that I'd say is that doing things is not your difficulty, not doing them is. And so if you have to rest a niggle, then it's hard and it takes confidence to take a rest day. That's the only thing that I would adjust, just doing that a little bit quicker. But for you, is there anything that you feel that you could have done better on this program?
Yeah, I'll first echo what you said. I think not pushing through pain and giving myself the opportunity to rest, as I did create a little bit of a niggle and injury that I'm now resting on and feel much better in. The second is a psychological change. So I am someone who is generally very driven, but I'll say, and for anyone who ends up watching this later, it took me a while between when George reached out to me and when I actually started the program. And I took a lot of time to think about it before committing. But once I was committing, committed. I was all in. And, I told you, and I'll tell whoever's seeing this later, that I wouldn't pay you if I wasn't going to take this seriously and if I wasn't actually going to go all in. So once I did that, I was very driven. I tracked everything. I was very communicative. I sent a video of every workout. I don't think I missed a workout aside from injuries or travel. I tried to stay on target as much as possible with my meals. I would take pictures of meals that I couldn't track precisely. I did things as best as I could. But the flip side of that is that I became more and more hard on myself as time went on, of that kind of exacting standard of perfection. And when I started to inevitably slip, because life happens, I became hard on myself, and that affected my motivation more. In like maybe week 6 or 7, I think is when we started chatting about this. So giving myself a little bit more grace, accommodating for mistakes, and just like resetting and hitting the next workout or the next day's nutrition is something that I could have done better and will continue to do better moving forward.
Yeah. Awesome. It really reminds me of something. I always say to people before they get started, I'm not going to make you work the hardest. I'm not going to make you because I feel that comes from a lack of confidence. When people say you need to be in the gym 6 days a week, you're only allowed to eat chicken and rice. That comes from a lack of education, because it's not, when it comes to fat loss specifically, it's not, and even muscle growth just as much. It's muscle growth signal based. Fat loss is metabolic. These things are about how do you adhere to the principles which get the best results. It's not about how much do you do. If you do the most cardio, you're not going to lose the most fat. It's not a linear relationship. And I feel that you grasped that really well. You thought, okay, well, how can I get the best quality of everything? But yeah, around that 6 or 7 week mark, I remember, did you ever see that film, The Accountant, with Ben Affleck?
No, I haven't. I'll add to the list though.
That's good. Yeah. Right. So in it, he's like perfect, so regimented. Everything about his life is perfectly regimented, and so he can go through it optimally. And then the minute that some of these habits get taken out because something external manages to crack his internal, everything starts to go to shit a little bit. And that's not what happens whatsoever. But you are a creature of habit, like most of us are. And so when you are on your habits, everything's perfect. And then and this is what's really important, when we could plan for travel and things like that, you were potentially even better, like probably one of the best that I've ever seen with travel, to the point where it's given me ideas. And in your personality, that means that if you're two different types of clients, the types of clients who are patting themselves on the back when they get 1 out of 3 workouts done that week because it's better than 0, and that is still better than 0, and that's still progress. Again, they're starting here. But when you are doing 95% of things correctly and you're thinking about the 5% too much, that's when you need to step back and just go, I've done the best that I can do. There's always tomorrow. And if you don't do that, then the next day is a little bit worse. The next day is a little bit worse. The next day is a little bit worse. It's like if you're trying to progress through a plateau and you just try to push harder. You can't progress through a plateau with more intensity. You're already doing the intensity. You need to change the tactics. And so I thought that, when we could just say, it's okay, chill. Even with the videos, you send above and beyond with the videos. Like I say to people, you need to send the first set of an exercise and then send me as much as you want from there. And you send them more. And that means more analysis, which means we can get better results with it. However, when you did feel that things were slipping a little bit, then you don't send the videos. And it's like other clients do this as well with their nutrition more so. If they've had a bad day, that's when they don't track it. And I'm like, that's when I need to see it. I need to see what your habits are like when you're struggling. So yeah, it's not about being perfect. It's about how quickly you can respond to it. And I think we were done. We fixed that in like 4 days. But again, was it maybe you were on call and then and we hadn't quite had a, so again, we've now got a structure in place for when you're on call, we just drop what we expect of ourselves. And then we get 100% of that. It's always better to get 100% of what we're trying to do than constantly getting 80% of something which we can't do. Because then you never build that relationship with yourself where you say, I can do this. This is what I can do. I'll do 100% of it. Where you're just like good with your word. Because once you say, George, I'm going to get 3 workouts done this week, time's not a factor. We know 3 workouts are getting done. Whereas with people who aren't on their word, then we have to make everything about whether or not they get done. And then there's no time to think about progression. And progression is what's going to drive results. So yeah, I thought that was
I
awesome.
really like that framing. Yeah, I really like that framing. Thanks for sharing.
Oh, you should see I'm dreadful for marketing stuff. Once in a while, I'm just like, hey, client did this. Do you want to? That's all I do.
Well, that's the other thing I realized is I didn't discover you through social. You reached out to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I did not think about going to Instagram or any other things. Like I was just evaluating the PDF you sent me, I think, the type of clients, the type of relationship, the type of like the services that would be offered. And then I was like, okay, I'm in. I didn't, it was only, I think I didn't even look at your Instagram until week 4 or 5. And I was like, oh, there's like a lot of content there. That's also because I'm not very active on Instagram. But
well, this is the
maybe
thing,
I'm
right? All of the clients that I typically work with are software engineers.
Yeah.
And if you're on a laptop all day, on your desktop all day, you're more of a producer. And so some people do scroll social media, but most don't. And so that my actual favorite types of clients and my avatar, let's say, has always been software engineers. Ever since like the first one that I got was on Reddit, and it was an accident. And he was like, no, you should target software engineers. Like your lazy way of doing things of just work out 3 days a week is perfect. And obviously it's adapted from there over time. But most of my clients come from the fact that I'm like, hey, you got any goals? And like, actually I do. I'm like, hey, watch this video that I made. Like if it comes up in their newsfeed, they probably wouldn't click it. But if I send it to them, they're like, oh, that's really useful. So I have to force them to use social media. And I do think that's good, but it's also, it would be cool to have more people coming in rather than me being like, you should achieve some goals today.
That's funny.
Where do you want to be in 6 months?
3 areas. One is health, one is physique, and one is like skills, I guess. So health would be injury-free, which I think I'm almost there, and we can talk about that separately. And I'm also planning to get some blood work done in the next couple of months, but I've already seen just dramatic improvements all around. Physique, so for people who may be watching this, I started with pretty visible belly fat and body fat around my shoulders and lats. Now there is some ab definition. There's insertion of lats coming in. The shoulders are pretty well defined, so that's been a very dramatic change.
We should mention your lats are like your lats and traps were in like that's where you have the low body fat percentage. So it's your muscle mass. This is a big thing for people who care about fat loss too much. Is build up muscle. You can find this whole fat loss process a lot easier when you have a load of muscle built up, because you had lat insertions at a high body fat percentage, and that's from building muscle. So anyway, go on.
No, totally. So I think the next step would be more ab definition and more muscle definition on like forearms, bicep, basically like full arms and a little bit of shoulders. I think with additional fat loss, the further back definition will come in, so I'm not too worried about that. But I'd really love to focus more on the arms and shoulders moving forward. I also think my legs are pretty well defined at this point, and with further fat loss, will also define more. So I'm less worried about the legs and the back, but I think the arms and shoulders are where I can define more. So that's physique. And then skills, we talked about this on a previous call, but I think I was looking at this book I told you about, Overcoming Gravity. And so I think for chin-ups, I'm currently at 1.36 times body weight. So I'm 165 right now, and I can do weighted with 60 pounds. I'd like to get that to 1.7. So at 160 pounds body weight, that would be 110 pounds weighted. So I think that might be doable in 6 months, given that in 3 months I was able to go from body weight to 1.36.
Yes, some of it's going to slow down in terms of, but each little progression is going to mean more in terms of like your applicable strength and your muscle mass. But we have to ride this wave of blocking plateaus as long as possible with foreseeing where the weaknesses are and patching them before we run into the plateau. But yeah, it's very much dependent on how much we can do that. But eventually, like, I won't call it genetics, but just like the nature of not taking steroids comes into the play.
Yeah. And that's fine. I'm just setting an arbitrary, ambitious goal, and we'll see how far we get, right? Because any progress would be great.
Better shooting high.
I think, yeah. I think the next one is pistol squats. This is also arbitrary, but 10 unassisted pistol squats on each leg with strength in the range of motion would be a great goal. I actually don't know if weighted is better in this case, but that's something I would like to do.
Weighted is easier because it centers you.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's why I said
Weird.
unassisted, unweighted. Yeah. And then 5 handstand push-ups in one set. Again, arbitrary. I don't actually know how hard that is, but that's 5 freestanding, I think. Freestanding handstand push-up, not wall, just coming up on the parallettes.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the big 3. And then, of course, you
Yeah.
know, I would love to go, you know, all different directions of calisthenics, but in the next 6 months, I think these are the ones I'd like to focus on. 1 push, 1 pull, 1 legs.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the muscle up is a training session away. It's a practice session away.
Yeah.
Because we've done the thing which anyone who is actually trying to do well with calisthenics needs to do, is just get strong and lean, strong with the movement patterns. They're important. A different client to me said the other day, he was like, why don't we just do like loads of different exercises? He's like, yeah. So I was like, it's the whole Bruce Lee thing. Practice one kick 1,000 times or 1,000 kicks once, which is going to be more proficient, where you're going to see the development. Let's pick the range. Let's pick the movement patterns. Let's get it, which are going to have the most return on investment, and get extremely strong with them, and watch them carry over. Even with the handstand push-up, if we can get that overhead press strength ridiculous, then you go into a handstand push-up, and it's just a few weeks of really practicing that transition.
Right.
It's just a transition, really, and just being cognizant of, oh, my legs are in the air, hence my quads, don't let them flail, reduce the energy leaks. So get strong, get lean, and then it's just the skill, and the skill is much harder to develop. Again, find me an overweight person who's doing handstand push-ups. The only reason they can do it is because they learned when they were young, when their body fat percentage and their strength was a better ratio. So yeah, that's the big thing. And I think we'll achieve a few more things along that way, just by the nature of progressing those things. But yeah, your legs, from already having a decent squat, and then also getting strong at the ball game and split squats, it's just the best exercise, lower body exercise ever. It's going to be very difficult to not have developed legs with that. So yeah, we just keep developing as we get stronger at these movements.
Cool. I'm excited.
Okay, one last question. Is there a type of person that you would recommend for this program, either in mentality or in struggles, or anything else that you think applicable?
Obviously, I think this program will work for people who are like me and were all in from the beginning, because I think you meet people where they are. At least you met me where I was, or like I came to play and you were down. And that was great. It was great to have someone who would engage with me at that level. I would imagine that for someone who may be struggling with motivation and is using the, you know, frankly, high upfront cost as a motivator, you can also kind of meet them where they are and pull them along the straight line to where they could be. But from my experience, if you are motivated, like if this is a goal you really care about, you have tried other options, you haven't had much progress, or like you really just want someone who will be there with you every step of the way in ways that I wasn't even expecting. Like the number of messages we've sent back and forth is pretty crazy. I would highly recommend this. And you know, I've told my family, I've started telling my friends, like, very good use of time and money to make this happen. And honestly, I think in many ways a better value than, you know, some gym where you go once a week for a trainer that you have like 30 to 45 minutes with, because you get this constant access and this constant feedback. And I was certainly skeptical of you not being physically present and how that would affect the ability to critique and improve my form. But I was completely wrong. I think like sending the videos, and I would also encourage people to send videos of multiple sets, because we also noticed how my form decayed over multiple sets. Versus if I just send a single set, you can critique it, which is great. And if it's the first set,
Yeah.
it's probably going to be your best set. But sending the first, second, third, we saw in pull-ups where I may not have gone down all the way, or where I started to maybe swing a little bit, or started to kip a little bit. These are things that I was not expecting a virtual relationship to notice and improve, but definitely did. And that was like one. I don't even think I've expressed that to you until just now. That was one doubt I definitely had coming in, but that was silenced very quickly, and that also incentivized me to keep recording and sending videos.
Yeah,
because I saw that
it's
value
funny.
pretty quickly.
It's funny because some people bring this up firsthand, and the way I always explain it is, for example, if your friend sent you a video of, and I know this is going to sound like a little bit controversial, but if your friend sent you a video of their exercises, you would break it down better than a personal trainer, most of them, because they're not actually good at their job. Not to be mean, but they are in fitness because they were already in shape, and they just went, oh, I should do this, I'm already in shape. But that does not qualify you to help people who don't know how to progress. You did a bicep curl and then built a bicep, whereas people like me were 115 pounds, had to do absolutely everything that they could to make it happen. And so it's different. And I know that if someone sent you a video of an exercise, you have the capability to understand how to break it down for them. And that means that the value of this now translates for the rest of your life, rather than a PT telling you that you need to keep your elbows tucked when you're doing an exercise or whatever. You don't know why you're doing that. You don't know if that's applicable to other exercises. You don't know how that looks when you're doing it. So you don't actually know if it's correct. Whereas if you record it, you can make sure that the way it feels actually lines up with how it looks. And I guarantee that if you're doing 60 pounds now on chin-ups when you're doing 90 pounds, the exact problems that we had when you're at 30 pounds will come back again, because they are now weaknesses again. And you have not fixed them. They've just subsided for a while, and now you have to go into it again. And the only way that's if you record it. I still record my sets randomly, and that's why I do it, because I'm not arrogant enough to believe that now I've fixed it once, that I just know how to do everything forever. And I think that's why people get PTs. They think, oh, if they fix my technique, then I can just exercise perfectly for the rest of my life. And it's like, they don't even know what their technique looks like. So why do you think they can help you? But yeah, it's awesome to see that adjust. Yeah, this has been brilliant. Pretty happy with the results. And yeah, I'm excited to see how far we can go with this, because I think calisthenics are the best way to go about training. It's just another value stack for why you're doing what you're doing. If you're going to the gym and you get stronger, it's like cool. If you go to the gym, you get stronger and more muscle, even cooler. Stronger, more muscle, feel better, more self-confidence, athletic, can do things that most humans can't. Now it's like, why would I ever skip the gym? And that's the whole goal of this, is train so that you have a better experience of life rather than sacrifice life so you have a better experience of training.
I'm really excited for the skill development part that's to come, especially now that I have a pretty solid foundation.
Yeah, solid, completely solid foundation. That's what everyone needs to do, get a foundation first. Anything else that you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I don't think so. This has been great.